the revival of Jet Airways and the hopes and plans that lie with the revival and the consortium of Kalrock-Capital and Kalrock-Jalan. Who are these White Knights and what do they hope to do with Jet Airways after the NCLT nod? Let's first go across to my colleague Utkarsh Chaturvedi, who's breaking down the story for us.
Well, good news coming in for Jet Airways, given the fact that the company has finally gotten an approval from the NCLT when it comes to the revival plan of the Kalrock-Jalan committee. But what's the setback here is that the historical slot which the company was looking for is not something which has been granted to them automatically by NCLT. NCLT has now asked Jet Airways to file for the new slots and routes, and DGCA and the Ministry of Civil Aviation have been asked to respond to the same in an amicable manner. Now, what's very important is that the DGCA and the Ministry of Civil Aviation has already given its statement in written to NCLT saying that these historical slots do not belong to Jet Airways but do belong to the country, and that is precisely the reason why any allocation of slots or routes, whatever will happen on the basis of the rules which are existing at this point of time and not on any historical basis. But apart from that, what I've been told is that the new Jet Airways management is looking to go ahead with a smaller crew. International, domestic and cargo, all three are on cards at this point of time. But what's very important is the fact that apart from Delhi or Mumbai, more or less in many places, Jet Airways has found the slot it was looking for. Obviously, the negotiations are on when it comes to Delhi and Mumbai to have the adjacent slots of what they're looking for, but obviously it's a process for the next 90 days to get everything up and running, to get the negotiations, contracts, lessors and everything. But it's a very big move when it comes to the revival of Jet Airways, and looks like Jet Airways will fly again.
All right, let's see if Jet Airways does fly again. Our next guest definitely hopes so, at least. Rajesh Prasad definitely hopes so. He's the Chief Strategy Officer at Jet Airways. I'm also joined by Ajay Attorney, expert at all things aviation. Welcome to both of you. Rajesh Prasad, what is the plan now? The last time we spoke, you talked about getting the airline up and running with at least 30 aircraft 6 months after the NCLT nod. The NCLT nod is finally here. I have two-part question for you. Is there any hope in the middle of a global pandemic to start up an airline once again? And will the capital to do so be available?
Thanks, Tamanna, and thanks, Utkarsh, for that introduction. In fact, I would say that last time we spoke, we talked about things which turned out to be true. 30 aircrafts to begin with by the Jalan Kalrock consortium, mix of domestic and international. Of course, as Utkarsh also pointed out, there was a disappointment because the IBC code, which is of 2016, the civil aviation guidelines on slot allotment is dated 2013, so it predates it. Naturally, we were expecting that the moratorium would be recognized and historicity would be recognized. Having said that, the Civil Aviation Ministry has been cooperative in the informal talks, and we expect that a solution will come. Now, your question, two questions that you asked, whether it's a smart thing or whether it's feasible for an airline to start. Perhaps I think in midst of the pandemic has given us opportunity with and blended with the NCLT provisions. It has placed us in a position where cost base is minimal. There are leasing companies, there are other counterparties like the engineering contracts and all of them who are willing to discuss with Jet 2.0 and reduce the cost element also. Now, the issue on the cost side, I think with the NCLT provisions will be very well taken off. The question comes out on the revenue part of it when there is a slowdown, whether the RASK one expects those things will be good enough or not. Now, what we are seeing is that the next 6 months, that the 90 days and perhaps the extension another 90 days, which Honorable NCLT was willing to consider also during the discussions today, So you have a window of virtually 6 months. We expect that having the vaccination drive that is going on globally and also very pronouncedly in India, we expect that the aviation sector will bounce back much more emphatically with the repositioning and the initiatives taken not only by the government of India, but also globally at the global level also. And in terms of trade and the attractiveness to and
No, but
fro from India.
Rajesh,
Yeah.
I love the optimism. I love the optimism. I think the entire aviation industry is hoping for revenge travel. But even so, revenge travel is expected to be more leisure travel. It'll take some time, maybe a long time, before people start traveling widely for work. Some companies may never have the same extent of travel. Now they've discovered that the same kind of conversations can happen over an app at hardly any cost. So that's one part. The second part is when this revenge travel does happen, there will be already established players with clear slots, with clear bilateral agreements who will be ahead in the race. And you will have to put in a lot of money. I don't want to rain on your parade, but I'm just pointing out some serious challenges that you face and want to know how you plan to face them.
Let me respond to that. It's true what you said is that there is a new normal that is coming in every sector, and aviation also it will happen. Now, what one is saying is that the cost elements have reduced so much that we are working on different models. What will happen if we do a 60% occupancy, if we do a 70% occupancy, and how do we calibrate that occupancy with the cost element? Now, if you take any other airline, and what you said is that with slots established and rights established, all those would definitely be there. But in terms of the cost element, Jet 2.0 stands in a very enviable position because you don't have any legacy liabilities. So to that extent, if you take your composition of your balance sheet and the P&L, it looks much more attractive and it will absorb from 60, 70. That is what calibration we are doing. At what capacity utilization can you break even because your costs are lower? So that is one thing. One is very cognizant of the fact that the new dynamics will come in. There will not be a flying plug. It would start with leisure travels, surely, and work from home and the new dynamics that is coming in. But this is where Jet 2.0 scores over others, because the cost element is very low and their balance sheet is also on a clean. Every airline you take globally, they have sitting liabilities which almost constitute about 30-35% of their balance sheet. Now, if we don't have to service those ab initio from the beginning, this is where the advantage lies. That is where I'm saying that it comes. Now, I am
Okay.
yeah, and there would be, I would say that I am hopeful, definitely, but I am cognizant of all these factors that have come in. That's why the entire thing is now changing, and the business plan and everything is also getting calibrated to the new dynamics and new reality. So I am hopeful. I'm not very optimist, and
Yeah, no,
I
no, of
would
course.
consider. Yeah.
You still have to figure out how many, I mean, the two most important things. Let me get Ajay here. Let me get Ajay, attorney here. And Rajesh Prasad has every right and must be hopeful today, because if he isn't hopeful, then what will all of the creditors and the employees and the operational creditors do? So kudos to him for that optimism. But Ajay, my question is that without the ever important information on slots and bilateral agreements, is it very difficult to predict how high Jet will fly at this point?
Hi, Tamanna, and congratulations, Mr. Prasad, on the first battle won. Tamanna, I'm very optimistic about the fact that Jet will fly again. But what I'm not optimistic about is, the part where, like you said, the slot. I think that is the case with every airline as they take wings again. So that's nothing to worry about, really. What I am kind of going to cast a little aspersion about is starting on day one with 30 planes. If that really happens, that's a huge cost base being built all over again. And, without proof of the purpose as we go along. Typically, what airlines tend to do is to scale up over a period of time. But in this case, let's hope that what Jet is able to do on day one with 30 aircraft flying really works out, because then they're a formidable player and they're really back in the business as compared to, a new airline which is just starting out. So yeah, the business plan is unpredictable right now, but if they already have commitments from various airports, then they will be able to build up a cross-country network and scale up pretty quickly.
There's some assessments that you need 10 to 15,000 crore rupees to get the airline up and running. Rajesh Prasad, is there visibility on that fund flow? And also, can you throw some light on where will Jet 2.0 be positioned? Is it going to be full cost carrier? Is it going to be a low cost carrier? Where in the spectrum of products and services that are available right now in Indian aviation do you see Jet 2.0 fitting in?
Tamanna, first thing that I am realistic yet optimist, first of all. The second thing I wanted to say is that 10, 12,000, 15,000 crores is not the amount that you will need, and what anybody initiating into the aviation sector would look like. Look for and plan accordingly. So that amount is humongous. That will not be needed, because as you would see, if you start owning the aircraft, then the expenses and the cost and all, they increase. If you are doing it on a lease model, and there are discussions going on in the background that the lease contracts have to be made much more attractive than conventionally they were doing, and the leasing companies are willing to do that. So that is one. The second thing is that Mr. Jalan has been very forthright from beginning that it will be the same jet in a new avatar. So it would be a full service carrier, where the best part is that we're trying to see which all destinations we can fly in international. Because international, as I had mentioned earlier also, 60-65% of the expenses are foreign currency denominated. So if you are flying international also, you start getting a natural hedge against fuel variations, against all the engineering contracts. So one is trying to look at that angle also to balance the two. It is a tough task, and the next 90 days is going to be very, very strenuous for all of everybody who's involved. And if at all, because you have the leasing contracts, you have the engineering contracts, you have to finalize the airport charges, you have to finalize the slots, build your network, get people on board. So the task is humongous, and the list goes on and on.
No, you have a tough task.
Yeah.
You've had some time to prepare though. You've had 6-8 months to prepare though. But you do have a tough task, no doubt, and we wish you luck. Rajesh Prasad, I'm sure Ajay agrees as well. Indian aviation is known as the graveyard where airlines come to die. Many of them have failed and been grounded. I'm sure everyone would like to see one of them at least, Jet Airways, rise from like a phoenix from the ashes. So thank you so much for joining us with all those details. We'll be tracking that journey very closely.